So I was just scrolling on Twitter the other day, and I saw a stat that Norman Powell ranks 19th in the NBA in points per game. What the hell? So then I had to check the NBA website to see if it was legit. But then I was really looking, and wait. Check who's 10th in points per game in the NBA. Kawhi Leonard? 10th? Really? Because just a year ago, it felt like Kawhi was completely washed. But for some reason, this season, Kawhi is back. And honestly, it's great to see. But that got me thinking. Actually, it got me thinking a couple things. For starters, 28.1 points per game is 10th in the league. I remember when Carmelo Anthony led the NBA in points per game, he literally averaged 28. Crazy. But second, Kawhi, he's back. And there was a point in time, Kawhi Leonard, there was genuinely a path for this guy to become the greatest basketball player the game has ever seen. So well, let's talk about it. And to understand this entire potential GOAT path for Kawhi, we gotta go back to where it all started, 2011. Shia LaBeouf just dropped Transformers: Dark of the Moon, Drake just dropped Take Care, and arguably the most stacked draft class ever is coming into the NBA. But in the middle of that whole draft, there's this one mystery player, Kawhi Leonard from San Diego State. I mean, no one really knew what to think of this dude. Let's look at some of the weaknesses they had listed out for him. Weaknesses: 3-point shooting, inconsistent mid-range jumper, tends to over-dribble, forces penetration when it's not there. Yeah, so 3-point shooting, he becomes an all-time efficient 3-point shooter. Inconsistent midi, becomes maybe the best mid-range shooter ever. Then the other two, pick your poison really. But it doesn't stop there. Let's read the draft comparison. Player comparison, Trevor Ariza. Ariza has made his impact in the NBA due to his athleticism and ability to defend on the wing. Leonard will have to follow that blueprint to reach his maximum level of success at that next level. Both players are effective off the bounce and in the open floor, but do not have reliable outside shots. Honestly, this isn't the worst comparison I've ever seen, besides the outside shots part. They do have similar play styles, it's just that Ariza is Kawhi, but like great value Walmart brand Kawhi. But honestly, some of those Walmart brand great value foods go crazy, and sometimes Ariza goes crazy, so perfect comparison. But you get it. Kawhi, this 3-and-D wing with potential, but questions, and you know how it goes.
The Indiana Pacers select Kawhi Leonard from San Diego State University.
Yeah, the Indiana Pacers. They drafted Kawhi, then they traded him. Freaking idiots. They traded Kawhi, right to Erzim Lorbeck and Davis Bertans for George Hill. I get George Hill is good, but how do you trade Erzim Lorbeck? That guy was a beast. But for real, let's look at this class. Kyrie, Kemba, Clay, absolute legend Alec Burks, Kawhi, Vooch, Tobias, the Manimal, Jimmy Butler. Maybe the best draft class ever. But anyways, let's move to Kawhi's rookie season. Kawhi started the year coming off the bench because the Spurs had a guy, Richard Jefferson. Everyone remembers this big four. But eventually, they trade Jefferson, and Kawhi gets the starting spot. But when Kawhi really started to get minutes is when Manu Ginobili got hurt. Right away, Pop trusted this dude to guard whoever. Here's a Popovich quote from that season. "I think he's going to be a star, and as time goes on, he'll be the face of the Spurs, I think. At both ends of the court, he's a really special player, and what makes me be so confident about him is that he wants it so badly. He wants to be a good player, I mean a great player. He comes early, he stays late, and he's coachable. He's just like a sponge. When you consider that he's only had 2 years of college and no training camp yet, you can see that he's going to be something else." So he comes in, and Popovich compares him to SpongeBob. I mean, you look at the guy's stats from his rookie season, he doesn't look that good. 7.9 points, 5.1 rebounds, 1.1 assists, 49% from the field, 38% from 3. I mean, it's good, but it's nothing we've never seen before. But we all know what Kawhi doesn't show up on the box score. and the Spurs were good. They finished 50-16, and Kawhi made the all-rookie team. Bro, why did 7 people make the all-rookie team? Kyrie, Rubio, Fareed, Clay, Shumpert, Kawhi, Brandon Knight. That's insane. 7 people. But for the Spurs, they were insane. Tony Parker finished 5th in MVP voting. Duncan finished 14th. So you're not expecting a rookie to come in and take over like LeBron in 03. And he didn't. But he was still essential on the defensive side. Would always guard the other team's best player. And the Spurs, they would end up making the conference finals. But ultimately, they fell to the Thunder in 6 games. The Durant, Harden, Westbrook Thunder. Literally the best big 3 ever if they're on the same team. But someone got a little cheap and didn't want to pay Harden. Yeah. But let's move on. His second season. I want to run through this season really quick because his third season is when we knew he was going to become a monster. But his second season, the Spurs again, they're insane. I mean, you know how good the Spurs were for all of the 2000s and 2010s. I don't really got to tell you that. Deadass, if they were on the schedule, chalk it up as an L for like 20 years straight. This season, they finished 58-24. This time, Tony Parker, 6th in MVP voting. Duncan, 7th. Don't even make the joke. Don't do it. But yeah, Kawhi improved to 11.9 points per game, 6 rebounds on the dot, 1.6 assists, and 1.7 steals. So he improved in every single category. But he did miss some time this year because of injury. He played 58 games. And the Spurs, they would end up making the finals to play LeBron, Wade, and Bosh. Back in the finals for the 3rd straight year. And the Spurs, they're actually up 3-2. Then Pop subs out Timmy D. Bosh get the rebound. Allen hits a 3. And LeBron gets his 2nd ring. So yeah, that's how Kawhi's second season ends. But Kawhi did really hoop in these finals. He averaged 14.6 points, 11.1 rebounds. Best Kawhi finals run? Surely. Psych. Just wait a little. We'll get there. But now, we're going to get to the years Kawhi really did become one of the best players in the NBA. But I do want to say, if you want a chance to win NBA Finals tickets for this season, all you got to do is subscribe. After you subscribe, just go buy NBA Finals tickets. Then you're subscribed and you got Finals tickets. Thanks. But in all seriousness, if you guys do want to subscribe, it's the only thing that truly tells me you guys want me to go all in on this channel. Thank you so much. Anyways, Kawhi's third season. This is the season where it's like, this dude is legit. He had LeBron octuple checking the scorers table. But let's check this real quick. 2013-14 NBA season. What are your thoughts on Kawhi Leonard? Alright, Jack Cho. This guy literally wrote a Harry Potter novel. We ain't reading all that. But go down to the bottom and there's this. Time will tell whether he will become a really great offensive player. If I had to guess right now, I'd bet that he'll never average 25 points a game in the NBA, sort of the benchmark of a great offensive scorer, as it's a big leap to ask. But I hope he does because it'd be fun to watch him develop. And regardless, he should be a great NBA player all around. Ceiling, Scottie Pippen. Well, good call and bad call at the same time, Jack Cho. Because he thought Kawhi was going to be great, but he kind of undersold him. So let's go to his third season. The Spurs were even better this season. They'd end up going 62-20, one of the best NBA teams ever. I think everyone can agree on that. Watch this team's ball movement. I'm going to play a Spurs ball movement compilation in the background right now, just so you can see how good they were. But for Kawhi this season, he didn't take a massive jump statistically. He averaged 12.8 points per game, added 6.2 rebounds, 2 assists, 1.7 steals. He shot 52.2% from the field, 37.9% from 3, and besides the field goal percentage, none of the stats are a massive leap that would make you think this guy is the next NBA superstar. This guy's season high was 26 points, literally less than he averages nowadays. But this season, it was Kawhi's defense that made him so elite. He'd end up making the all-defensive team for the first time in his career. It was the second team, but it was really the playoffs where this guy took over. Again, if you look at his playoff stats, there's nothing in here telling you this guy's a future offensive superstar. 14.3 points per game, 6.7 rebounds, 1.7 steals, but that's until we get to the finals. Again, we got the Spurs-Heat matchup, back-to-back years of the same finals. Okay, I do want to say something really quick though. I was researching trying to find out if people expected the Spurs or Heat to win this series at the time, so I looked up 2014 finals predictions, and both predictions I found were playoff brackets, and they both had the finals as Heat Clippers. It's so insane. The Clippers were a freaking powerhouse. So much that people didn't even have the Spurs in the finals. Wild. But we get to the finals, and Kawhi, he's matched up with LeBron for the second straight year. And I said Kawhi didn't have the offensive game yet. That's until he showed up in the biggest moment, Game 3 of the finals. The guy goes for a career high 29 points, and for the series, he held LeBron to only 28, 8, and 4, which doesn't sound like doing much, but 28 and 4 for LeBron in the finals is kind of ass. But Kawhi would finish the series averaging 17.8 points per game. He shot 61% from the field, and the Spurs dominated this series 4-1. And Kawhi, NBA Finals MVP at 22 years old. The third youngest Finals MVP ever. The sixth Finals MVP ever not to be named an All-Star the season he won. And just like oh shit, this guy is really here type of Finals MVP run from Kawhi Leonard in 2014. And really, even though, like I said, his offensive numbers for the season weren't that good, 13 points and 6 rebounds, this is how people saw him at this point. Slam Magazine put up their top 50 players going into the 2014-15 season. Let's look at this. 28, Tim Duncan, Kawhi's teammate. 27, Goran Dragic. 26, Rondo. 25, Al Jefferson. Gold, by the way. But 24, Chris Bosh. 23, Marc Gasol. And 22, Kawhi Leonard. 13 points per game, Kawhi Leonard. That's how impactful his game was at this point. So now, let's go into that season, where he is officially a star at this point, if you want to say. And actually, to start that season, Kawhi couldn't see shit. He missed the season opener, and then he made a season opener while still dealing with blurry vision, and he played through a bunch of games with blurred vision. He was seeing the games like this. But as soon as he came back, he started hooping. He put up 26 in a game against the Clippers, and 26 for Kawhi at this point is like a miracle. But he actually did have another injury in December, a hand injury, and that will become the definition of his career. But he came back, and he was still elite. He finished the season averaging 16.5 points, a career high at the time, 7.2 rebounds, 2.5 assists, and plus, over the 25 final games of the season, he averaged 19.2 points, he shot 53.6% from the field, he averaged 2.7 steals for that span, and in those 25 games, he had a plus 19.8 net rating, which means every 100 possessions Kawhi played, the Spurs won those possessions by 19.8 points, and because of that, Kawhi Leonard, for the first time in his career, gets an MVP vote. Granted, it was one last place vote, 2 less votes than Marc Gasol. Joking. But for real, for the first time in his career, Kawhi wins Defensive Player of the Year at 23 years old. But actually, look how close the voting was between him and Draymond. Kawhi won by 16 points. But really, the moral of this is shout out to Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, man. 9th in Defensive Player of the Year voting, special player. But because Kawhi won Defensive Player of the Year, he joined a list. Michael Jordan, Hakeem Olajuwon, and Kawhi Leonard, the only 3 players ever with a Finals MVP and a Defensive Player of the Year. Pretty elite list, but at the same time, I'm surprised Elfrid Payton isn't here. But for the Spurs, they struggled this series and lost to the Clippers in the first round in 7, and that was the end of theirs and Kawhi's season. So, we move. 2015-16 season. And this season, I'll try and define it. Well, first, the Spurs signed LaMarcus Aldridge, so it's pretty much a start of new era in Spurs basketball. Annoying ass team. Went from David Robinson to Parker, Duncan, Ginobili to Kawhi and Aldridge to Wemby. Fans never suffered a day in their life. But for 2015-16, this was the Kawhi Leonard. He might be the best player in the NBA season. Because opening night, the Spurs got the Oklahoma City Thunder, and Kawhi Leonard, first game of the season, 32 points, tying a career high at that point. And really, this was the season that Kawhi becomes one of the best players in the NBA, and everyone knew it too. In a GM survey before the season, who's the best defensive player in the NBA? Kawhi Leonard, 26.7% of GMs said him. And shout out to LeBron, third best defender in the NBA at the time. Pretty crazy. But yeah, Kawhi kept balling out this season. Actually, so much so that he was named an all-star starter. Russ, Kawhi, KD, Kobe, Curry. That's just elite hoops right there. But being named a starter in the all-star game, that made him the 6th Spur ever to do that. And I'll give you the other 6 names, but warning, there's a serious plumber here. Obviously, Duncan, Robinson, Gervin, and quad double legend Alvin Robertson. But then we're looking at Larry Keenan. Yeah, I don't know either. But continuing on that 2016 season, in March, he had a rematch against the Heat, put up 32 points, and the Spurs got the W. And the Spurs, this was their 45th straight home win. 45 straight. If you lived in San Antonio and went to see the Spurs play, you were going to see them win. And as you can tell, they were insane this season. They finished 67-15. Kawhi, a career year, averaged 21.2 points per game, 6.8 rebounds, 2.6 assists, shot 51% from the field, 44% from 3. And again, for the second straight year, Kawhi wins Defensive Player of the Year. But look at this again. Another close race between him and Draymond. And shout out to Hassan Whiteside for getting those 2 votes. And shout out to Paul Millsap. What a beast. But winning the Defensive Player of the Year again, Kawhi actually becomes the first non-center to win back-to-back DPOYs since Dennis Rodman. This guy right here. And because Kawhi was so good this year, and so good defensively especially, he actually finished 2nd overall in MVP voting. Now granted, Curry won this year unanimously, but I had to throw that out there. Because 21 points per game coming in 2nd in MVP voting feels crazy. But I guess he was just that good defensively and efficiency. But yeah, to the playoffs. The Spurs, they got a first round matchup with the Grit and Grind Grizzlies. Although the Grit and Grind Grizzlies are kind of old at this point. So yeah, Spurs sweep 4-0. But in the second round, they actually got KD and Russ and the Thunder. And they actually end up losing this series 4-2. And in a season where a lot of people thought the Spurs were going to be the Warriors stoppers, they lose in the second round. But it's kind of crazy the NBA this year had the 73-9 Warriors, the KD and Russ Thunder, and the 67-win Spurs all in the same conference, and LeBron and Kyrie win their chip. Wild. But even though they lost, at this point, Kawhi was a superstar. He was pretty much unanimously looked at as like a top 5-ish, maybe top 3-ish, depending on who you ask, player in the NBA. And if you want proof, let's check the GM survey again. Because this year, 2/3 of the GMs consider him as the best defensive player in the NBA. He received votes as the best interior defender. Every other person here is a center. And he received votes for if you were starting a franchise today and could sign any player in the NBA, who would it be? But don't look who number 1 is. Alright, let's move on. 2016-17, Kawhi and the Spurs. Obviously, at this point, they got massive expectations. They're coming off a 67-win season, and early on in the season, Kawhi continues to hoop, becomes the first Spur ever since 2012 to record 3 straight 30-point games, then becomes the first Spur with 6 straight 30-point games since 1986. In between that, he's named an all-star starter again. Later in the season, he got 91 straight games where he scored double digits, the highest since Timmy D back in 03. And for the season as a whole, he balled out, 25.5 points per game, which was a career high, 5.8 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 1.8 steals. He scored in double figures every single game he played. The first Spur to do that since David Robinson in 95. It's so dumb that every Spurs record is since Tim Duncan, since David Robinson. We get it. You guys are an elite franchise. And that didn't change this year. The Spurs, they went 61-21. Kawhi finished the year third in MVP voting. This was that Westbrook-Harden year. And a shout out to Isaiah Thomas, man. Just an elite year from the 5'3" legend. But Kawhi actually didn't win DPOY this year. Draymond won it. Gobert was second. Kawhi, he was third. But I'll cash app you $1 billion right now if you can guess who came in fourth. I'll give you a second. Alright, if you said Robert Covington, drop that cash app. Insane that he came in fourth. But Kawhi would end up making the All-NBA first team, the All-Defensive first team. This is the season after Tim Duncan retired. So we're really looking at a different Spurs era. And we got Powell on the Spurs. So yeah, this is a new team. And in the playoffs, it really looked like the Spurs were going to do damage. Round 1, they got Memphis again. We're talking grit and grind grandpas at this point. Although they do push it to 6, Spurs win. Round 2, Rockets again. Spurs win in 6. And in the conference finals, you can make the case this is where Kawhi's career is never the same again. Because at this point, it's like, if Kawhi's going to carry the Spurs to a championship, he's going to be already one of the best players the NBA has ever seen. But we all know what happens. Game 1 versus the Warriors in the Western Conference Finals, Kawhi lands on Zaza's foot and injures his ankle. And the Spurs, they end up getting swept by the Warriors. I mean, the Spurs were up 25 on Golden State. Kawhi hit 26 points. Then he's out for the rest of the series. And that injury, it would lead to maybe the most disappointing season of Kawhi's career, the 2017-2018 season. Because in this season, he missed the first 27 games with a quad injury. Then he played some games. Then he was out again. And the Spurs doctors literally cleared the guy to play. But he said he was still hurt and wanted other opinions. And then the Spurs players had a team meeting like, Kawhi, my guy, you can play, please. Then he said, nah. And he didn't play again for the rest of the season. He'd end up playing 9 games, averaged like 1 point and half a rebound. But for real, these are not good numbers from Kawhi, including career lows from the field and from 3. And because all this tension with the Spurs, you know what happens next? Kawhi Leonard demands a trade from San Antonio Spurs. Yup, the best two-way player in the NBA doesn't want to play for the best franchise in the NBA anymore. And of course, everyone wants in on these sweepstakes. Leonard has Los Angeles, preferably the Lakers, at the center of his preferences. If Kawhi Leonard does become available in trade talks, the Boston Celtics will be interested in probing the Spurs about a deal. League sources have told the Express News that the Philadelphia 76ers could be in play to acquire Leonard. Clippers interested in Leonard. Another team to watch in the Kawhi sweepstakes, Sacramento. Yeah, everyone wants Kawhi, unsurprisingly. So, what do the Spurs do? Well, they ship his ass out of the country. The San Antonio Spurs have traded Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green to the Toronto Raptors for DeMar DeRozan, Jakob Poeltl, and a protected 2019 first-round pick. Yeah, the unexpected team, the team from Canada. They bring in Kawhi to team up with Kyle Lowry, a young Pascal Siakam, and try and get a ring. And the thing is, they know Kawhi is potentially a rental. Everyone knows he wants to go home to California, so is he going to leave in the offseason after? He is a free agent, so he might. So well, what happens next? Well, we get the best season of Kawhi Leonard's career. From a Raptors website, Kawhi Leonard holds the belt for single best Raptors season ever. Yeah, that's the season we get. But going into the season, no one really knew if it was going to work or not. They'd end up finishing 58-24. They weren't the best team in the NBA. Although, You look at this roster, and you deadass might say, this is the best team ever. Anunoby, Boucher, Marc Gasol, Danny Green, Serge Ibaka, Kawhi, shout out Jeremy Lin, Kyle Lowry, CJ Miles, Greg Monroe, Norman Powell, Siakam, Valanciunas, Van Vliet. That's like actually the most stacked team ever. But in the regular season, Kawhi would only play 60 games. He would average 26.6 points per game, 7.3 rebounds, 3.3 assists. But the playoffs, that's where things went to a whole nother level. The Raptors had the Magic in the first round. A weird Magic team, man. I don't know how they made the playoffs. Aaron Gordon, DJ Augustine, Evan Fournier, Vooch, Jonathan Isaac. Weird team. But the Raptors, they would win that series 4-1. And that would put them in the second round, which would end up being one of the best playoff series ever. Raptors-Sixers. The Sixer team, they were stacked. Simmons, Redick, Butler, Tobias, Embiid. Crazy. But right away in this series, Kawhi, he took over. Game 1, 45 points, 16 for 23 shooting. Only the second Raptor ever with a 40-point playoff game. And 6 games later in the series, Game 7, Kawhi hits what I would consider probably either this Kyrie or Jordan, the best shot in NBA history.
Is this the dagger?
Yeah. Kawhi, Game 7, 41 points, although he shot 16 for 39, kinda a brick fest. But Kawhi hits the first Game 7 buzzer beater in NBA history. And that brought them to the Eastern Conference Finals for Giannis and the Bucks. And this was the year a lot of people thought Giannis was going to lead the Bucks to win it all. But Kawhi, he went kind of nuclear in this series. Game 3, 36 points, 8 in double overtime. Game 5, 35 points, 7 rebounds, 9 assists. Game 6, 27 points, 17 rebounds. And the Raptors ended up winning 4-2. Which brought them to their first ever NBA championship. And again, Kawhi goes crazy in this series. Game 2, 34 points, 14 rebounds. Game 4, 36 points, 12 rebounds on the road. Game 6, 22 points in the title clinching win. And the Raptors, they win their first ever NBA championship. Kawhi becomes the third player ever to win Finals MVP with 2 different teams. The first player ever to win Finals MVP in each conference, scored 732 total playoff points, the third most ever in a single postseason. And if you want to know what Raptor fans thought about this series, here's the Kawhi season review. The good, everything. The bad, nothing. The grade, A++++++++. That's it. That's the review. Yeah. Kawhi has one of the greatest seasons ever with the Toronto Raptors. And what does Kawhi do? Well, the only logical thing, leaves the Raptors after 1 season to go home to the Clippers. But if you want to know how much of an impact Kawhi had in this 1 season, who is the greatest player in Raptors franchise history? With 92 votes, Kawhi Leonard, 71% of the votes. And honestly, at this point, there was no denying it. Kawhi was a top 25-ish player ever, with the chance easily to move into the top 10, maybe even 1 if things went perfect with the Clippers, but that just isn't what happened. So far, we're currently in his 6th season, so let's not count that. In his first 5 full seasons there, he's only played 266 of a possible 410 games. He's been elite when he played, 24.2 points per game, 50.3% from the field, 40.4% from 3. He's made 3 All-NBA teams in that 5 years, 3 All-Star teams, a defensive team, but no major playoff success. The farthest they got was that Western Conference Finals versus the Suns in 2021. So yeah, Kawhi's Clippers tenure has been amazing, no doubt, but definitely underwhelming. But he still is only 34 years old, and nowadays these guys play till like they're 60. So if things do go right, Kawhi could easily move up the all-time ranks. But now, most lists you look up will have him in that 25 to 35 range. Although, there was a serious point in time where I think a lot of us thought Kawhi Leonard has a legitimate chance to become the greatest player ever. And if you guys enjoyed, I would genuinely appreciate if you could subscribe. It's the only thing that really does truly tell me you guys want me to go all in on this channel. Thank you so much for watching.